Hi there, my name is Theepan. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I'm going to be demonstrating the basics of editing with the DAW, and that's the assignment for week 3. Before we get going, I'd like to introduce to you what sort of kit I have. And I'm a bass player, so I'm going to be using a bass guitar that's connected via TS cable right into an Avid Fast Pro. That's the interface. And then finally, the DAW I'm using is Apple's Logic Pro. Okay, so what we now have is just an empty project, so I'm going to be adding a track so that we can have the bass recorded. But you can see here is input and output. That's from the interface I have been talking about earlier. Let's create that. First of all, let's go and name it so that we know what we're calling this one and get rid of the other track. I'm also going to be adding this icon so that I can visually see what we are doing here. So I'm going to arm this one, and I'll be recording a track. You won't see that part, but once I have the track recorded, let's jump right into the editing side of things. Okay, now we got two tracks that are recorded. One of them actually it has a longer version of a bass line, and the other one is slightly different, and they're quite distinct. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I'll be using both these tracks to merge, split, and do a few things. The first editing task we have is to trim these tracks towards the ends and also the start. So given the start of both of these tracks are pretty good, I'm going to just make sure the ends are done okay. And you can see the bass one track actually has a little bit of white space left after that, so I'm going to clean that up by just trimming it, bring it close a little bit. Okay, so in terms of the outcome, what we're trying to get is we want to put a split right between where bars 6 and 7 are, and bring the second track and bring it into the first track. And let's assume hypothetically there's a key change happening and we want to achieve that musically. Okay, what I'm going to be doing now is to split the first track. So we select the first track and move our playhead somewhere close to where we need to have the trim going, and I'm going to be using the scissor tool to split it. I'm going to move this one slightly away so we have enough space to work with. And the next step is to bring in the second track. So I'm going to actually make a copy. So I'm going to be using the Option key and drag this from second track to the first so that I can neatly drop it here. Okay, now that we've dropped both of these tracks together, or regions rather, let's have a listen to what it sounds like. So I could hear a click just there, so we might be able to remove that with the fade tool. So I'm going to zoom right into that a bit more, and I'm going to be using the fade tool here so that we can select that bit of the end and the start of those two, and that should have removed the click. Let's have a quick listen. Yep, that's smooth. Now that we're happy with the crossfade, it'll be a good idea for us to merge the two tracks so that it's one and the same. In fact, it adds a lot of value by having both of them together, so we can do further edits a lot more easily. So I'm going to click those two regions and hit merge. That will actually create a new audio file on its own, and it's actually a destructive edit. Now that we are done with the merge, it'll be a good idea for us to articulate the regions musically. Let's just assume this is supposed to mean a key change, and we can do that through region naming. I'm going to be doing just that by selecting, let's do that. Let's assume that's where it changes. That creates a new region there. So I'm going to rename it to key C, or say that's key of G, and let's say that's key of E. And might also be useful for us to use different colors, if that makes any sense. so that we can do things a lot more easily in terms of navigation. I'm going to use a different color here. Let's assume we have multiple tracks. It would really make sense for us to have different colors consistently. Okay, that's all cleaned up. An idea that's related to regions, but at a global level, is the markers. Markers dictate or indicate things at the song level, cutting across multiple tracks. I'm going to be using the markers here, and we can actually generate markers automatically in Logic Pro from the region itself. Let's say we select those regions, and that just does it. And if you were fancy, we can change things to key 1, or maybe call intro, and let's call this something else. Let's just leave it as key. Finally, let's assume we're finally satisfied with all the edits musically, and we can cycle it through a number of times just to see how things are sounding overall. That'll give us a bit of a clue as to what needs to be further changed. And I haven't gone into the trouble of aligning things into the bar or the timing of things, but for this demonstration it's good enough. Let's play it through. So this bar around here is the loop feature of Logic Pro that helps you just cycle it through the entire song. We can simply just bring it down to one aspect. See, that loops around here, and it just loops just where we select the tool. My personal reflection, it's a great set of utilities you have in your hands if you are able to edit things after things are recorded. As a player, I used to spend so much time in perfecting the bass line or anything for that matter, but it's not necessarily all that easy for us to get the same everything right in this give and take. So what this enables me to do now is to go for multiple takes and just cherry pick things that are really good and put it all together to get to a good outcome overall. Thank you very much for taking the time to review this, and all the best with all your assignments.